Pushback today against the Trump administration's planned retribution at the nation's top law enforcement agency is gathering some steam this afternoon. Breaking over the last several hours, 2 lawsuits against the Trump Justice Department, one a class action lawsuit seeking to block DOJ leadership from creating lists of agents who worked on the January 6 investigation and the Trump classified documents case, lists that could then be used for a mass purge of the agency. The plaintiffs say this, quote, upon returning to the presidency, Mr. Trump has ordered the DOJ to conduct a review and purge of FBI personnel involved in these investigations and prosecutions. This directive is unlawful and retaliatory. Plaintiffs assert that the very act of compiling lists of persons who worked on matters that upset Donald Trump is retaliatory in nature, intended to intimidate FBI agents and other personnel and to discourage them from reporting any further malfeasance by Donald Trump and his agents. The plaintiffs warn that any compiled list could then become a tool for Trump and his allies. More from the lawsuit, quote, plaintiffs assert that the purpose for this list is to identify agents to be terminated or to suffer other adverse employment action. Plaintiffs reasonably fear that all or parts of this list might be published by allies of President Trump, thus placing themselves and their families in immediate danger of retribution by the now pardoned and at-large January 6 convicted felons. Attached to their suit is the questionnaire that was sent out to Bureau staffers, consisting largely of yes or no questions regarding their involvement in the January 6 cases, with one question asking for specifics on what each agent did in the largest investigation in DOJ history, launched in response to what the director of the FBI at the time called an act of domestic terrorism. Bureau staffers getting support from a number of groups representing current and former FBI agents. A second lawsuit against the Justice Department from the FBI Agents Association is asking a federal judge to protect agents from retaliation and, quote, vigilante action by those they were investigating, pointing to an incredibly tense threat environment for the agents in the wake of Trump's mass pardons of the January 6 defendants. They say this, quote, as of the date of this affidavit, multiple hashtags are trending on X that allow January 6 convicts turned pardons to link to each other in posts promoting violence and insurrection against law enforcement agents. They also cite the leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, singling out an FBI agent for retaliation. Their suit includes this dire warning, quote, in addition to being unlawful, a mass unlawful firing of 6,000 FBI employees would be catastrophic to national security. FBI agents trying to draw a line in the sand against a possible purge that would put them in danger is where we start today. Here for his first ever television interview, Michael Clark. He's president of the Society of Former Special Agents of the FBI, one of the groups pleading with Congress to take action. Also back with us, former assistant director for counterintelligence at the FBI, MSNBC senior national security analyst Frank Figliuzzi. And with me at the table, once again, former top official at the Department of Justice, MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissmann. I appreciate all you being here. I imagine this isn't the most comfortable time to be speaking out, but it is perhaps the most important time. So let me start with that. Thanks. Michael Clark, just tell me what's happening right now inside the FBI.
Well, it's I'm sure there's a lot of agents who are fearful of their jobs. Being an FBI agent can be a dangerous job, and it's dangerous times. And now the agents are focused not only on doing their work, but they're also concerned about their families, and just whether their names and addresses will be exposed by this list.
Tell me what is available as a recourse. What can Congress do to protect the Bureau?
Well, hopefully, injunction. I know the Agents Association and we're supporting that, has filed a suit so that these names won't be released. There's another suit as well out there filed by a number of agents for looking for the same type of relief. I'm not sure what Congress can do. I'll leave that to to some of the congressional delegates or individuals that that you'll have on at some point, I'm sure. But there's tremendous concern by the agents. I can assure you of that.
Let me show you something that former Deputy Director of the Bureau, Andrew McCabe, said over on CNN about just the creation of these lists.
Thousands of agents who did nothing other than respond to the orders of their supervisors and of people at headquarters who likely sent them leads to the field offices where they work to conduct some investigative activity and maybe even execute a lawful search warrant or arrest warrant signed by a federal judge. So the idea that these people are essentially being virtually rounded up now, submitted, being demanded to fill out what I'm told is a 12-question survey, which is mostly yes or no answers, to identify themselves as people who are who may be targeted for some sort of retribution or punishment. It's absolutely disgraceful. These are people who are civil servants. They enjoy the protections of the civil service program. The FBI has an extensive process of if there are allegations of misconduct against specific employees, those things are investigated. They are given due process. And ultimately, the Office of Professional Responsibility administers an adjudication. Nowhere in my entire 21-year history in the FBI did I ever see anything like this, where employees are literally being rounded up for political reasons for cases they did their lawful and expected work on. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, to Andy McCabe's point about how FBI agents end up working on cases, the opposite of what they did, the kinds of answers that would get them in trouble with the Trump team, would have been unlawful. Can you just explain how sort of the chain of command works inside the Bureau once the director declares an event, a crime that takes place on TV, an act of domestic terrorism?
Well, almost in any case where the agents are, get involved in an investigation, there's a predicate offense. A case is opened in conjunction with the United States Attorney's Office. And then the agents will use all the different tools at their behest to follow up. And, agents are not free to refuse assignments. So if, for example, if an arrest warrant or a search warrant is sent, and it could be anywhere in the country, and let's say it's sent to Kansas City, that warrant commands you to act. It doesn't ask you. It doesn't allow you to say, geez, I really don't want to, execute this warrant. And so many agents all over the country receive leads, interviews, surveillance requests, and they're all, lawful, and they followed up on those. And, because of that, they're suffering the consequences right now. And as Andy McCabe had mentioned, the survey is unprecedented. I've never heard of anything like that in my 22 years.
If you take the distribution of the survey and the firings of the entire top-level leadership of the FBI, what is the FBI's capacity right now? Would you guess it's operating at 70%, 80%? I mean, how would you assess its ability to do its primary function right now?
That would be hard to assess, but I can guarantee you agents are distracted. If you're worried about your family, if you're worried about are you going to be fired, last night agents, I'm sure, were on pins and needles as many were out working, but they're also concerned, tomorrow am I going to have a job? So, under any organization, if you just can't afford to be distracted in your work because it's a dangerous occupation.
For people that don't know, will you just sort of give folks an overview of the kinds of divisions that the FBI oversees, counterterror, counter-trafficking? I mean, just take us through the kinds of crimes the FBI protects everyday citizens in every state from.
Well, sure. There's, obviously the Criminal Investigation Division, and Frank could talk to this question better than I could. And there's terrorism. There's certain foreign counterintelligence as well. So the FBI has very broad avenues of investigation, and obviously intelligence. Tell
me what happens if these efforts fail. I mean, I want to read a little bit of a section from the lawsuit that's a little ominous, but I just want to help our viewers understand what you're talking about, what the agents are going through. The lawsuit says this: the plaintiffs have been informed that some of their personal information has already been posted by January 6 convicted felons on dark websites, the dark web, and are particularly concerned about further publication of their personal information. This is in a post-January 6 political environment after the January 6th insurrectionists that they investigated attacked law enforcement, after the husband of Nancy Pelosi was attacked with a hammer, after acts of political violence seemed to become acceptable in one of the two political parties. I wonder what the conversations are about how to protect these agents and their families from the information that's already available on the dark web.
Very true. And, most agents, the FBI agents are highly trained. They can take care of themselves. And God forbid one were to be attacked, they certainly could defend themselves. However, they have families, they have kids, they have, they're worried about their home life. And so that's the biggest concern that most agents would have is, are their families safe? Are their homes safe? And, obviously it's a little bit scary as well for them that their names would be out there and possibly their addresses.